Welcome to Diaries of a Data Scientist, our podcast in which we share about what's important to break into data science, provide valuable insights also for senior data scientists, and invite interesting guests from different data science areas. We're Yasmin and Kate, we're both data scientists and mentors working in industry, and we are sharing here our thoughts and experiences. Let's go! Hello everyone, this is Diaries of a Data Scientist, today with episode 24. It's insane, 24 episodes so far, and we're going a little bit back to our roots. Today's episode is all about answering some of the top mentoring questions that especially also Kate received through her recent mentoring program with NTU in Singapore. And I think the questions that we selected will especially help young folks who are thinking about changing their career into data science or studying data science. So yes, let's get started right away.
Yeah. Hi, guys, from my side. As you said, Yasmin, I guess it is going to be really, really helpful for people that are just breaking into the data science. But also, it was really interesting for me that this time with the mentees, it was a little bit kind of different discussion for us because they would not be on the master's degrees. So they would just, finish the high school and that will go straight to the degrees. And then after maybe one or a couple of courses taken afterwards, they would just question whether they actually would love to consider data science or should they stay in there. So, and I guess it's also like kind of the situation that I was facing when I was like when I even started my bachelor's. I don't know how's that for you. Did you also have these doubts?
I think basically everyone can relate to that kind of feeling, especially after one or two semesters. You're somewhat into the program, but like just asking yourself, is that really the right thing for me? For me, I actually since I did a dual study, it was such an intense experience for me. There was basically not a lot of room to doubt, but I also really, really enjoyed the program. And I think it's a good thing to sometimes stop and reflect also, is this really what you want? Is there maybe something else that is more interesting to you? And honestly, it's never too late. And even when you're 10 years into your career, right? You should always reflect on, is that really what you want? And does this align with your personal goals and values? And this can also change over time.
Yeah. So the context of this mentoring program was more international about Singapore, so the Asian market. I got mentees from the bachelor degrees, and some of them were on the first course. Some of them actually were almost finishing their bachelor's, and they started thinking and considering to go to the data science degrees. And I think that among our listeners and viewers, we also would have this category of people that are maybe interested to get into the science. And what I felt in there during our mentor sessions, that they were a little bit afraid of that, of making that step and making that decision. And that is what they would ask a lot of questions, how to nail that, what are the qualifications, and maybe we can start answering right away. One of the first questions was, what is data science? So, and what is the difference between data scientist, being a data scientist, being data analyst, and being data engineer? So, Yasmin, how would you answer that question?
Yeah, so I think I would focus more on the part, right? What is maybe the difference between data analysts or data analysis and data science and data engineering? And I think actually, if you just put some note on the second part of each of this role, right, you already get basically the major hint about what this role is about. So a data analyst would mainly use the tools like also SQL. Many do also use Excel, yeah, and so would mostly use standard tools to also perform some more basic to advanced statistics and analyze data in order to find out new insights about that, right? But I would say this is really also the role where you have to be comfortable also working with larger data amounts. But I think it's less about actually programming now a script around it, but really like especially being very good also at SQL and being able to also get the version out of the database with which you can then work on. So I think that is something you have absolutely be passionate and also comfortable with. Whereas in data science, I would say it's more really of the scientific part. Data scientists would go more into advanced statistics and data modeling techniques, to also machine learning, and would not just discover new patterns, but also really try to predict and forecast, for example, on time series data. Right, so I think it's way more this, say, more advanced and deeper kind of methods around modeling data and trying to get useful insights in order to solve. That's very important. Solve business problems, and that's the reality in most of the data science jobs. Right, you're not doing it because it's cool, but you actually want to solve a business problem using data. And then data engineering is, again, like engineering already gives you a little bit more hint on that. I think it's all about being very familiar and also comfortable with using, say, also software engineering methods in order to make data usable, but also building robust pipelines for the data to be consumed by other people or roles down the line, and building reusable and robust methods around consuming, distributing, and also transforming the data. Did I miss something, Kate?
Nothing at all, I would say. But we can always get like a little bit deeper, I guess. And maybe what I want to add is that, so maybe one of the disclaimers for you guys is that usually data teams do not have kind of the strict organization. Like we do have the ideal one, but right from company to company, also like depending on the size of the company and etc., you would have a little bit different kind of structures. But why I'm saying that is because usually on my experience, if you are gonna work on a project, you'll be always embedded with a data engineer, while data analysts, again, in my experience, they're quite often and more embedded into the business teams and business departments. So, and that is why you can find on maybe like LinkedIn something as data analyst in marketing department, data analyst in sales department. So this position is not necessarily being in tech departments, but also I saw this position being in tech, like as a data, like concise data department.
Yeah.
So that's maybe one of the things.
And I think that is also one of the reasons why some people would describe the data analyst role as more of an entry level or a very good entry point, especially if you're really looking into changing your careers, because it's mostly closer, even more to the business departments, right? In many cases, in many cases, you can still use standard tools like, as mentioned, Excel, and you with SQL, right? I think that gives some people an easier entry to the whole field. Yeah, but having said that, I don't like at all when people are speaking negative about data analysis or look down on that role, because I think, let's be honest, also for many different business problems, a good data analyst can fully get the job done and is maybe way more effective than if you have a data scientist who's all about just wanting to build the cutting edge models and doesn't really care about the business problem, right? So again, some stereotypes here, of course, but it's absolutely an amazing career opportunity. So, and it can be a very nice way to enter the field and figure out if that's what you also want to do down the line.
Yeah, completely agree. But in here, I would say that also be a little bit more careful, because when it comes to the qualifications of the positions and what the companies usually will be like requiring from your side, is that when you are applying for data analyst positions, right? This is again what I've seen from the job market, is that people or companies would require you to have a bachelor's degree. Anything which is like, part of this quantitative field, scientific field. It can be also economics, it can be also finance. So you can start as a data analyst. So that's kind of a prerequisite in the education. But when it comes to the data science, it's getting a little bit harder. And therefore, you also need to take this kind of maybe slight risk into consideration, that even though maybe if you got into the data department as a data analyst, you would expect to be asked to get a master's degree in order to get to the data science position. What do you think, Yasmin? So would you be agree with that, like based on the observations that you had, or you have slightly different?
I think what you described is definitely mirroring and reflecting the reality in many organizations. But I also do feel it's changing because from my perspectives, a couple years ago, there were no bachelors for data science, right? There's bachelors for computer science, and it's basically very hard then to specialize already, like going more into the data field, if like for your undergrad, and basically having those qualifications coming out of your bachelor studies. And that's why many people would then maybe switch to something more quantitative in the masters, or at some point data science masters available. But I think that is actually changing. So I do see more and more data science also undergrad study programs, and I think that we will also see that being reflected in a couple of years on the market, when I think of maybe a startup or a German Mittelstand, so like the medium-sized companies in Germany, that someone having a bachelor's is the way more also like realistic applicant for a job, right? Because I mean, masters, it takes you longer. You will maybe also expect a different salary right after. And I think we will see also more data science bachelor entry and junior jobs.
Yeah, that is very interesting, because I guess we have covered this topic multiple times already in the previous breaking into the data science episodes, that when you got out of the master's degree university and you started looking for an entry position as a data scientist, the company will write something, I don't know, junior data scientist with 5 years of experience and whatever. And I was looking like, okay, that's quite interesting. What you're expecting.
I can just give a short shout out to Franziska Haug. She is combining also the words of like data and tech and say recruiting and people management. And a couple of weeks ago,
I
wrote a great post on LinkedIn about that we really have a shortage of entry level jobs in that sense, because like people are asking juniors to have 3 to 5 years of experience, and that's not an entry level job. So
yeah, for sure.
I can really just recommend reading that post. It was quite insightful.
Yeah, so pretty much we're already in the like this qualification field, right? And indeed, it was also one of the questions: which qualifications do I need to have in order to get into the data science field? So I would propose honestly to right now maybe focus on something that we have currently as a reality, and maybe to add as a hint or something that we can foresee as a trend in the market in the future. So the first, as we said, that firstly, honestly, I have never seen any job positions for data science without specifying that we need at least a master's degrees in this quantitative field, as we mentioned, and it can be a lot of fields, right? Data science, mathematics, statistics, bioinformatics, business informatics, biostatistics, astrophysics, like pretty much it's a lot. Everything which is connected to the scientific study. But as you said, Risman, right, as a hint we take for you guys for the future, just to look at the market, look at the trend, also see what the other people are saying, that since we started having the data science bachelors, maybe this will change the requirements level.
Often this question is also combined with people just finishing their bachelor's, looking into switching into data science masters and being a little bit worried if their undergrad is qualifying them to even switch there. And I think there's some programs which are a little bit more, say, open to also take like applications from bachelors which are a little bit farther away from the field. And then there's some which are way more stricter. And I think personally that anything that gives structured thinking and problem solving based on large amounts of data in the undergrad can be really good qualification to also make the switch into data science. So Kate, you've already mentioned also like biostatistics, bioinformatics. I would even say that if you've had a very quantitative social science study or a political science, I've also met some people from that area who just put a focus on also analyzing empirical data in their bachelor's, right? And they obviously had to catch up on a lot of, say, the more computer science, software engineering parts, but from their, say, more statistical qualifications, they had no trouble finding into the field.
Yeah, recently I was giving a session or a talk on the woman in tech, and a lot of people were asking me, can I just go as a working student or can I just go as the intern being on the bachelor's? And here is, for me, harsh reality. Again, this is something that I saw from my life experiences, that the answer was no all the time, and maybe still answer is no. So I have also never seen people working as a working students or interns having like data science, let's say, working students positions. So Yasmin, how is that like I'm just interested right now from your perspective as a team lead. So is it something that you would support and say that it is maybe 90% true, 10% we might have some deviations, or you can also see that it might be changing in the future?
Yeah, so I can just speak, as you said, like from my personal opinion. And I find that really hard because from one side, I absolutely would love to support, especially thinking about first, second semesters in their bachelor's, of getting that work experience and getting that real life experience. But on the other hand, you also have to be really realistic about that. Supervision takes efforts, and especially if you want to keep a high standard of really providing a good supervision to those students and interns, this really costs quite some time. And I had such a situation also last year when things were picking up with our internal data and academy. Resources were quite strained. And then I had such a request coming from someone really just starting out in their bachelor's, basically not having yet even a Python experience, right? And I turned it down because I didn't see how we would, as a team, would be able to really support and also, provide the necessary supervision. And I think that's a little bit of a constant struggle, but I'm also sure that there will be times where we get into a little bit more, say, regular and routines, where I would like to also take on that challenge and just maybe share my opinion afterwards how I felt about it. But I think you really also have to be realistic about that and how to make it easier for possible employer. I think that if at least you already have some Python experience, and this is something that you can really also gather quite well from university, but also like from online courses and just starting out with some projects at home, I think that already bridges the first hurdle. Because then I at least know, I can give some projects, I can hand over some work where I know that the student can also be a little bit self-sufficient, at least for some parts, and wouldn't need like hand holding a whole working day.
So the short answer is going to be still that it's a pretty bold decision, really brave decision from your side, but you will face with a lot of competition from the people that are already on their masters, having a little bit more experience in even the university projects and knowledge. So that is unfortunately the situation.
And again, here, getting a start in data analysis might be to consider, because also here SQL, Excel, even just starting with Excel, which is still the reality in many, many companies and organizations. Like it or not, it's still the case that many people are working with Excel, even maybe they shouldn't. And this can give you like also a little bit more, say, realistic chance of finding into the field, even with a bachelor's or just starting out in your bachelor's. I have one more question to you, Kate. What about, and I mean, we always stress and highlight the necessity of having soft skills, but how do you see that if you're just starting out in the field and maybe trying to get your first intern working student position, would you say soft skills are not needed for that because you can't expect someone in that level to have them?
That is really debatable for me, because if you're thinking in the frame that you just finished the university or you're in the master's and you're working as a working student in order to get an experience, or you finished the university and you got your first data science junior position, usually in the ideal world, in the way how the positions in tech are organized, that you have firstly junior, that you have middle, and that you have senior, that when you are on a junior position, no one is expecting from you to have any soft skills. And it will be more kind of work that you will have your supervisor or a manager that will take responsibility for the project, and you will be pretty much coding sort of 8 hours a day. So you will not be part of your fixes or maybe some negotiations of the with the stakeholders and project managers. So you will be that person who will be given, let's say, a sprint. For example, within the next 2 weeks, you need to analyze the data set. You need to tell me what are the influencing factors, and etc. So you will be more as a hands-on. And only once you move to middle or senior positions, you will start having this networking, you will start having these soft skills. So therefore, if you just started, nobody even is going to expect it from you. And that is why the easy answer, I would say, maybe you wouldn't even care about that. But if you bold and brave in this scenario and you want to really showcase yourself, definitely yes, and yes, you will need to have them. So it's pretty debatable from my side.
Yeah, I must say for me, I think to some extent I would agree, right? To say you cannot expect the same level of soft skills. You need to give time to build that, of course, right?
Yeah.
But I think I am usually still looking for an absolute minimum. So for me, there's like a threshold where I say, okay, I at least need to know that the person is able to get help on their own, is able to talk to their supervisor and peers in the team, if they need some support, needs to be able to communicate, maybe also some like expectations. And I think it very much depends on the team, but I would absolutely include, and I'm including our interns, working students in our regular fixes. So I am thinking this more of a way, so I need a minimum of skill set in that area in order to be, not disrupting also the functionality of the team, to be honest. And for me, that has been like turning out for the team, I think, quite successfully. But I absolutely agree. I'm also like more, I would say, open and generous in overlooking certain say things that still need to develop.
Yeah, so I guess it is pretty interesting situation for you guys, because we have right now a little bit different, like in some sense, opinions, and which is also really nice, because this is the reality, because business is always based on people, right? And you cannot expect people behave and think in the same way. And it also, I guess, highlights our different experiences within the tech, because I can right now remember people that are, in the field for 20 years. They kind of speak better on Python than in English or German language. And therefore, they would just be very, very, very much tech. They do have a senior status, but they're not just talking. They're just like as machines, coding. And this is something that they enjoy doing. And that's really interesting.
You absolutely need both, right? Because I think like in order to build good solutions, I think there's different perspectives needed in order to build that. And but in the end, you also need the departmental structure needs to be able to work with that. And at least with the team that I led, also data science projects, at the same time, the Data and AI Academy, this was not this would not have been working for the setup. So I think you also need to really take into account like the bigger context of how is that team positioned within the internal structure, right? And I think exactly what you said, Kate. Maybe for applying to one job, your qualifications would not be sufficient yet because the context and the organizational structure is just different. And for a different opening, this would already fit. So I think there's like no one size fits all kind of answer here. And that's why I would also really recommend to just do the application, even if you're feeling like not ready yet. So don't wait too long. And I think especially women have that feeling that they have to tick off 100% of the boxes
Yes.
before feeling secure and confident enough to apply. Do it earlier. Do it like even if you're not feeling ready, you won't feel ever probably 100% ready to do a job and to do the internship and so on. So please also just apply to a wider range of different opportunities, even for some of them, if you're not feeling ready.
Definitely. And maybe also one of the things to discuss in here, what to expect from the technical requirements. As like, let's say, final question. And the short answer is going just to be definitely Python. In technical and data departments, there are two main languages, right? Python and English language. And this is why I love, honestly, data field, because pretty much it doesn't really matter if you want to go to, I don't know, Singapore or Brazil, everyone is going to talk on those two languages. And that I would suggest also our language, because it is more statistical one, and you would use, especially if you're doing time series, R is really handy. SQL, but honestly, me myself, I don't really touch SQL that often. Maybe only if I'm working with Databricks, but in there it will be like PySpark, and you can also practice your SQL inside. So I guess that is all for the tech
Nothing
part.
to add?
And here, yeah. And maybe, getting from that part. So we multiple times already said and mentioned that in order to get into the data science positions, we would say that 90% masters, in 10% you might get different shots. And after these suggestions or like recommendations, my mentees are like not frustrated, but they're like angry, saying, why? I mean, why can't I just finish, I don't know, one of the courses on Udemy or go through a boot camp? Why do I need to spend my time having master's degrees in the universities? And that is, I guess, a pretty sensitive question, because you need to spend a lot of time on that, right? Rather than taking 3 months course. But here we have for you guys some of the precautions and risks to take into consideration. Imagine that you're our mentees here, and we will never tell you definitely, no, you cannot take the courses, you cannot take any boot camps, but it very much depends on which company you want to go, right? So if you want to go to the small company like startups, and this is something which I really saw in the past, that in the qualifications, they will just require you to have a computer science maybe certificate from a Udemy platform. It's just as an example, Udemy platform. But if you want to go to the mid-size, to the enterprises company, in there, people would expect you to have definitely master's degrees.
I think that many bootcamps are promising and are looking like the shortcut to happiness. As you said, maybe like 3
Yes.
months, maybe 5 months bootcamp, right? This sounds fantastic. I mean, they cost some money, sure, but studying also costs money. And especially the opportunity cost of doing a master's of 2 years, not earning as much as being already employed, right, is significant, and is something that people actively think about. And in many countries, there's also significant costs to doing a master studies, like tuition fees. So that is definitely something just from a rational mind to put next to each other and to think about. I completely understand that. But I think that only very, very few boot camps really deliver what they promise, which is like, robust skill set and really like experiences that are making you ready for a full-time job and really also, qualifying you for that. And I think that for me, such a bootcamp could be a good additional measure. So this is how I see it. Like if you come out of your master's, you didn't have as much time to maybe do working student positions in between or interning. And then maybe like a 3 months bootcamp just to get really hands-on just for the full 3 months can give you the last trigger to feel confident. Yeah, again, coming back to what I've mentioned earlier, just try it out anyways. Just, probably you wouldn't even need it, but for some people it just gives you like an extra measure of security, which is okay. Yeah, but as a standalone measure, I would agree with you that for most companies, it would probably not enough to just see the bootcamp on the CV. And I think what is also important to stress, like if I have maybe an applicant with this bootcamp, and on the other hand, I have someone who maybe also didn't do a master's, but who has like a really good, say, data science portfolio on GitHub, who excels in the coding interview, right? And I just see from what they were able to provide as part of their portfolio for the application, how passionate they are, and that they really have hands-on expertise in projects, and maybe they've been developing open source on some bigger packages. For me, that is way more powerful than a bootcamp, and I would probably like also equal that with a master's for sure, or even would say that is more powerful. Depending on what your company is like, as you said, if you really need more this hands-on
Yes.
attitude, I would take that person over a bootcamp or master's person, to be honest. But for
Totally
some
agree.
also, yeah, for some positions also, especially maybe more in the R&D area, where you for many reasons also mostly you have people maybe even with a PhD, because maybe the work does require the next level of scientific methods, and the nature of the work and the task and the also the problems is just requiring this kind of deeper and also more endurance, yeah, which is something you build through also a PhD. I mean, this is a different story, and then probably neither of that persons would qualify for that.
Yeah. And maybe as an example out here, usually this is something that I tell to my mentors that unfortunately, as of today, if you would ask us, can you suggest any nice data science courses which we can take instead of maybe the universities, or even if you're in the degree in the university, which you can use as an addition, honestly, my answer, and it's like really unfortunately, and to my regret, I cannot advise anything so far. And I have been through a lot of courses. Maybe a bit later. So right now I'm going through one of the courses from the Harvard University, and I might say that I might suggest it, but I firstly need to finish that one to
Yeah, of
see
course.
how it's really working in there, right? And so in the universities, pretty much different algorithms might take a course over, I don't know, several even weeks, to have lectures and to have tutorials, hands-on tutorials. And can you imagine that you would spend several weeks just to understand one field or one algorithm in that field? And we're talking about deep learning or CNNs. This something that can get really complicated really, really fast in there. Compared to going to any courses or boot camps online where the algorithm will be displayed within 10 minutes. This is not something definitely enough. And always, I guess, important to remember that on the technical interviews, people are going to ask you questions based on the university, let's say, standards, rather than on the 10 minutes video about the algorithm. And that is why I said in the beginning that there is really like not a lot of hope that he will be able to nail this interview, not even from the coding perspective, but from the understanding the patterns. Because here the situation that I have, I guess 1 year ago, I had an amazing student from the computer science degree, and we were doing with him a really simple one, Keenan algorithm, where your job pretty much is to identify a number of neighbors in order to have nice performance for the train and test data sets. So when I received his homework in parentheses, I saw that this n parameter in the function was number 2. And I started asking, why have you decided to have neighbors equal to 2? He was just like, told me that because it was written like that in the scikit-learn. So that is the thing, what I'm trying to tell you here. Pretty much, everyone can call a function. That is not a problem, right? You can go to the scikit-learn, you can go to the chat GPT and ask, okay, how would I apply decision trees or like random forest? But the problem is that when it comes to the parameters, when it comes to the statistical theories that you have to understand while doing this algorithm, you will need to be able to justify why you have decided to choose these kind of strategies in there. And this is unfortunately not something that I have ever honestly seen on different online courses.
Yeah, and I think the one aspect that I would also really look out for when you're, say, taking and selecting any kind of course is that it's not just the theory part, but there's also like this hands-on part to it where you have to get, just down on yourself and have to work for yourself, or that there's something like, a workspace section where you can just also try and do some projects, even maybe collaborate. So that is definitely something that I think you can watch out for, and maybe
Mm-hmm.
by doing so find a better experience overall. But
Yeah.
talking about projects, Kate, so I feel one question that often also pops up, especially from students who already made a decision going into data science, that they are curious to know about how are actually the projects finding their way to the data scientist. So
Oh,
whose responsibility is it, and
I love that
how
question.
how how would you explain that? So how would you
Uh-huh.
find data science projects in the company?
Yeah, this is the question that I will never forget, honestly, because a couple of years ago, I had this really, motivated mentee, really like passionate and also a very much ambition. And this is something what he asked me. So here's something that we need to understand and clarify. In business, the data or technical departments, any IT departments will usually sit aside from the business one. So you're not sitting together in the office. And when it comes to any data science projects, this is something that I don't want to say that this is the responsibility of the business, but I want to highlight in here that it is on their shoulders to bring these projects to the technical department. Because look at that, you're sitting in the technical department, right? As a data scientist. So you do not really go to the business and you're doing your, I don't know, like 24/7 coding stuff, scientific stuff, etc. You don't really also understand a lot and much about the business that you're doing in, because you do have all the time different projects, and of course you don't have this major context about this project as well. Therefore, you don't really also understand the pain points, you don't really understand the struggles from the business side, and you cannot just walk around going to the team lead asking, okay, how can I help you? It is working in a different way that business sees that they do have pain points, that they do have some struggles, they might be need the automation and here and in there. And then what is happening next? They usually will go to the team lead. So they will not go to you directly, because you are discussing your time, your availability with the team lead of a data department. So the business comes to the technical department, to the team lead of the data department. And that usually how that was in my teams, and still it is in my team, that we do have 3 times jury fix in a week with the team lead, and he would say, okay, I have received this kind of pitches and project proposals from the
Mm-hmm.
business side, showing the presentation, the main ideas to us, and that we're discussing during the jury fix if it is even feasible, is technically possible to implement something like that. Because data science has a lot of expectations in this kind of sense. And that if we understand that this is technically feasible and we can definitely cover that and take that into the implementation, then the next step is going to be who is going to take that from the technical side. And that, for example, is going to be, I don't know, person number X. And then that person number X is going to be assigned to that project and work with the data engineer. And also, all of this part is going to be set together with the business stakeholders, and also either in here a technical manager or a project manager, in order to control this, let's say, more administrative part of time. So this is something that how it has been happening for me. And I honestly feel that I do support that idea that the technical and the IT departments with all developers and etc. are sitting a little bit aside from the entire company in order to have, how should I put that? There's like consistency, I would say.
What you've just described, this is a very, say, typical a process that you will find in many different organizations. And I think the one remark that I would like to add is that to a small extent, because what we've just described is this pull scenario, right? So the business comes and pulls, okay, I have this business problem. Can you help me solve that? Which I think is definitely also how for the majority of the projects that should be, because you want to solve like actual business problems that are really also relevant, and the colleagues can they are actually prioritizing also what is the most pressing topic for them. And I think as having been in exactly that also position, to a small extent, especially if you have the feeling, oh, there's some further potential which is not yet explored, or the more that you also hear and learn about what is the colleagues from the business team, what they are actually doing, I think sometimes we immediately go to the solving mode and also maybe start thinking about, oh, this is also something we could do here, or I've just seen this new tooling or heard about this model which could also help here and here. So I think to some extent, definitely the smaller number of projects, but you can also help create the pull, or another colleague sometimes calls that push the pull. So you can push them maybe a little bit, especially if you see, okay, this might be some further potential which is currently left untouched. But then it's still I would say the responsibility and the mandate of the business, obviously, to think about, yes, is this relevant enough for them? Is this priority enough for them to also make an official request out of that? And sometimes what can also help the business person understand why is that maybe something worthy to check out is to connect and also exchange and benchmark with other companies and what other companies are doing in certain fields, right? So sometimes that can also help create this context and bigger picture, and especially if you have some numbers and reliable numbers from other companies, like how much more efficient they are now with this solution or so, right? This can help convince why maybe it's at least justified to try out with a prototype if that can also work for your organization.
And maybe finalizing today's wonderful episode, we can finally got to the maybe like last point, which actually is supposed to be the first one, I guess, is how do I understand if data science is for me? Because this is something what I was asked a lot from the students that are, again, doing their first steps in the bachelor's, and they're not quite sure if they want to stay in there or if they want to go to the data science, but they also don't want to take a risk because they're not really sure that if they would love to have something like that, if it is maybe like too like overwhelming for them and they want to focus on like people or etc. So maybe we can cover that right now as a bonus part for our listeners. I don't know why, but I have never thought about this really small and simple steps until very recently, that when you are in the university, you have an amazing opportunity, right? So you are already embedded, you are already part of it, enrolled, and that is why you can all like use all resources that it offers you. Meaning that firstly, using the power of networking. I know that this is not something that we got our hands on while studying. I guess we just started doing this like while working, but this is something what really can help you to find I don't know, like maybe 3 to 5 people that are on the data science majors in your university. Please take masters for now and just set up the meetings with them, asking interesting questions, asking, I don't know, if they like it, what they are doing, what are their perspectives, how they would see their future, the careers. This is something I guess really wonderful to get an experience from the other people. And also what I would suggest definitely to try and go to the university lectures, because I don't know how in the other universities, but at least in Germany, you can do this for free. So you just need to sign up for a course. You would not have any grades for this one, or you just can come to the lecture and I don't know, maybe try out something data science intro in there and also see what they are talking about, what they are teaching them, and if you like it. And maybe also in here, the third part as a bonus, the professors and the tutors in the university are actually for you in there. Just go ahead and ask, please, your professor how explain also maybe the situation and ask for his or her opinion.
I think I think actually this question fits quite well, even after the end, because now we talked a lot about qualifications. projects, differences in data science. But I think that is, like you said it, some people hear about data science being this cool new spot. I think actually already, like, now the AI is the way to go. So,
Yes.
but I feel you really have to ask the question for yourself. Are you also going to be happy with that? Is it really for you? Or are you entering for the wrong reasons, aka it just being, the hot topic, and getting that idea or impression of, oh, you just earn a lot of money. Yeah. I think you really have to think about, is that the right thing for you? And I feel that, you can talk to people, you can visit seminars, as you said, and other lectures. I think this is amazing things you can do. But in the end, and I especially looked up the following saying, because in German I would say, probieren geht über studieren. But in English, I would say, the proof of the pudding is in the eating, which basically means you have to try it out. So you will only get your final answer on that if you just get down and maybe get started with a little bit of Python and really learn more about what is data science about in the after the studies, right? Because studying is one thing, but in the end, doing it and working in that field might look a little bit different. So I feel what you have to ask for yourself is also, do you like solving problems based on the data and patterns and insights? And do you like this kind of detective work of not giving up even if the road gets hard, and hunting down the right answer? I think that is some traits that are really repeating in data science, of course, right? And also I feel what's really important is asking yourself, do you have this growth mindset and of not minding at all and really just enjoying also lifelong learning? Because that's definitely something you have to do for sure in data science, just to keep up on the newest technology. And I feel also the last point being, are you really passionate about doing this because you want to solve business problems for it, right? Or do you just like to build stuff? So I feel that is depending on where you see yourself with the data science position. These are some questions which can help you. But in
Yeah.
the end, nothing goes, above just trying it out and doing some hands-on projects. That's
Yeah.
how you will learn if you really like it or not.
Yeah, definitely. And maybe the final advice from my side, please try to have at least an account on LinkedIn. Go through different YouTube videos. This is the task. Just try to find one of the best, maybe channels on YouTube that you would love to follow, or maybe one of the best podcasts as ours to talk about data science, also to understand what are the trends, what the people are talking about that field. Because data science field is indeed surrounded by a lot of myths. And I guess it's also one of our jobs that we're taking with Yasmin to kind of demystify that part. Also go to LinkedIn, follow maybe 3 or 5 different influencers in there. Also see what they are talking about a data science field, or even about like entire data science bubble. Or also one of the opportunities in there is going to be to go to the different communities to sign up in there. Maybe you would love to explore more the open source communities as Hugging Face or TensorFlow, and definitely maybe the final one, try to go to the conferences and do a little bit of the networking. If you enjoy the 2 hours long conference talking about the optimization or about data engineering, thinking about like, I don't know, workflows in there with the GitHub and etc., then I guess it's definitely the right part for you. So I guess with that, dear guys, it was Darius of a data scientist. Really happy to have you in here, and I'm very also happy that our advices also help you to navigate into your data science position in the future.
Go down to the comments. You can now also start commenting on episodes, for example, on Spotify or on our YouTube channel. So let us know in the comments if you have other questions, or if like these answers to the questions have been helpful to you. So use this opportunity to interact with us, and we'd love to get your comments there. Thank you so much. This was Diaries of a Data Scientist. Bye-bye.
This was Diaries of a Data Scientist by Yasmin and Kate. And if you enjoyed the episode, remember to check out our YouTube channel and our LinkedIn pages for more engaging content from the data science world. Thank you for today, and seeing you in the comments.